Welcome back guys. In this video I'm going to talk about path variables and request body. Now path variable allows us to map method parameters into URI template variable. So first we create a method, then map it to a URI. So we are going to create a public method that returns a string. Then we are going to add the parameter and annotate it with path variable. So we are going to define the name as path variable name as id. So parameter type is string and name is id. Then we are going to annotate this method as request mapping. So value is the URI template. So here we are just going to use the variable path variable. So we can define path variable like this within curly braces. So then we are going to return string. Path variable is id. So we create path a parameter called id, then we map it to a path variable called id. So this is how we define path variable and map it to a parameter. Now let's compile this application and try to access this method. In install, then we can run our application jar target demo spring boot. So application starting port 881. Let's try to curl the new endpoint. So curl localhost port 81, then our path variable. So as you can see, we got the value as path variable is 10. So whatever we pass as a path variable, we can access those using a method parameters. So this is how we define path variables in Spring. Request body annotation. Now request body annotation allows us to map HTTP request body onto Java objects. So this handles the automatic deserialization of request body into Java objects. So first I'm going to create a data transfer object. So I'm going to create a package called DTO, so data transfer object. Then I'm going to create a class called user DTO. So I'm going to add few properties: private string first name, private string last name, then private integer age. So then I'm going to add getters and setters for these variable, these properties. So then I'm going to create a request handler. So I'm going to create a public method, public string save user, then parameters user DTO, then I'm going to annotate user DTO as request body. Then I'm going to return the detail of this user DTO. User DTO dot first name, user DTO dot last name, is user DTO dot h. So then I'm going to map this method into a request URI. So request mapping value user, and the method is post. Okay, let's run our application. So we are going to call the new created endpoint. So I set the content type as application JSON and the request body is as a JSON. So let's call this endpoint using this JSON. So we got the response as user JSON Smith is 12 years old. So this is how we map HTTP request of body into a Java object. Now we can add other data types into our data transfer object like Java util date. So I'm going to add getters and setters. So internally Spring used Jackson to deserialize HTTP request body onto Java object. So there we can define our own date format. So Jackson provide few predefined formats, but we can use our own format. So I'm going to define my a custom format. So this is my format. This is the format I'm going to use to convert HTTP request body into Java objects. So I'm going to change the response. DOB is user DTO get DOB. Okay, now let's return our application. Now execute the same payload with the DOB. So 1988, then month is March 21st. So you can see we got the response. DOB is March 21st, 1988. So this is how we map HTTP request body into Java objects. So thank you guys. See you guys in the next video.